My education in marketing started when I was just a kid. Really, marketing in its essence is great messaging. She was the reason I started my first business. When your business starts making more, you as the entrepreneur oftentimes start making less. That was when I first realized that I was broke. What the hell was that?
Ryan, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing wonderfully. Thank you for having me.
Now, it would probably not be the best introduction, but it's not far off of accurate to say that you are the grandfather, and even at the beautiful young age that you are, the grandfather, and I would say in a lot of instances, the controller of marketing and media. Now, I've done the intro. Everyone's already got prepped up. If anyone doesn't know who Ryan Deiss is, then you've been hiding under a rock. You've written great books, Traffic and Conversion, Scalable, Rise Nation now with Roland and Damon John. You seem to have been there right at the beginning of marketing. And I read your chapter that was in Damon John's Go for Broke book, which meant so much to me. Anyone who hasn't read that chapter, hasn't read that book, get the book. Just to read Ryan's chapter, but we're going to be talking about Ryan's book that you really need to be looking at. When did you first realize that marketing was everything that we need to understand? Because if we're not using marketing, it's using us. When was your first kind of moment?
So funny enough, I got started, my education in marketing started when I was just a kid. My parents were divorced. Got divorced when I was 3. This isn't like some sob story, I promise. But the reality of that situation meant that I caught the bus at my mom's house. So when I stayed at my dad's house, which was every other week, my parents had a great relationship. I'd do a week at mom's, week at dad's. When I did the week at my dad's house, he dropped me off at my mom's house earlier in the morning because he had to be at work at like 6:37 a.m. Now, what's the only thing on? Certainly those of us in the States, will remember the only thing on at like 6 o'clock in the morning is infomercials.
Yep.
So I grew up as a kid, the only thing that I would watch is infomercials. And I remember being fascinated at these people on the screen who were demoing this product and showing things. And I wanted to buy it. Now I'm a kid. I don't have a credit card or checking account or bank account or really, even didn't know how to dial a phone all that well at that point. But I was caught by it. I was captured by it. And I knew this was something really, really important. So that's when kind of my lesson in marketing began. And what I love about it is my lesson in marketing was really a lesson in copywriting. And I truly believe that in marketing, there's 2 things. There's copy and there's amplification of copy, right? There's the message and there's the amplification of that message. And so much of marketing, people get trapped in the amplification. What's the best traffic strategy and things like that, when really marketing in its essence is great messaging.
Now you were getting consumed by this, and you were being saturated by these infomercials. When did you first realize that there was a practical usage of this? Because I believe we learn all of these great things, but until we put them into practice, we don't know if they're powerful. You put it into practice. How, when, and why?
The year was 1999. I was a freshman at the University of Texas at Austin. And a couple weeks prior, I had met a girl. And I met this girl. I knew within a couple of weeks of dating this girl that she was probably the woman I was going to marry. I didn't tell her that because I know that's creepy. But I knew. And that was when I first realized that I was broke. See, prior to this, I didn't have a ton of money growing up, but I didn't care, right? You're still growing up in the West, like we're doing just fine. I still got the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip and all that stuff for Christmas. So it wasn't that big a deal. But when I met this girl and I was like, okay, I need to get serious. I need to make some money. It's the way my brain thinks. It's like, I met a girl. I really like her. I'll probably marry her. To propose to her, I need to have a ring. Rings have diamonds. Diamonds are expensive. Holy crap, I'm broke and I need money. And so that was the practical realization of, well, I need to go and sell something. Now, I'm a full-time student. And so I was like, what's something that I can do? Well, I'm kind of learning to design websites. And so I said, I'm going to start selling myself, offering myself up as a web designer. And this was back again in 1999, man. Google was a science fair project. But what was crazy is the only type of website that I knew how to design were very simple, little one-page websites. And so everybody else at the time was designing these, like, do you remember Flash websites?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You remember you'd go to websites and like all this stuff would be swirly, twirling around? Yeah. Well, I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. I knew how to put a headline at the top of the page with a sub-headline under it, some copy below that, and a buy button. And the cool thing is it worked. Like, and what we now know is that just works. Man, I got lucky because it was all I knew how to do. If I could have done the pretty stuff, I would have. And so I started designing. I couldn't get, though, a lot of clients because they all wanted the fancy stuff. But I did wind up getting a job working for this email marketing company. And this email marketing company, let's be honest, they were spammers. This was 1999. It was before it was illegal. But they were having me build these landing pages, and mine outperformed all the pretty ones. And so I got promoted, and people, what are you doing? You must be this like marketing mastermind. No, I'm just talentless at web design, and I know how to write copy. And so those two things, being utterly talentless in what was then considered to be high level web design, but knowing how to write copy, my stuff worked better than everybody else's. So I got the promotions. I saw marketing in action, and I got to see for the first time leads hitting web pages, opting in and buying stuff. And that's when it became real and magical to me.
Now, there's a lot of people that and it's usually through mistake, and you say about you didn't know how to do one thing, you knew how to do this, and by luck it worked. There's a lot of us that are kind of like really lucky, and we stay in our lane. And you know a lot, I'd say you know a lot of people, you know everyone in the marketing world. And they've all become really, really proficient at what they've done. But you decided to take it out and get curious and actually start creating platforms, arenas, masterminds for people to learn it more, which in turn also helps you learn more because you're now getting their expertise. When did you first realize, hang on a minute, why don't we get people together? Tell them about the very, very early stages of traffic and conversion and the war room, and when that first started off as literally just a few people.
Yeah, so I attended my very first marketing event in the year 2000. I think it was the year 2000. So I'm 20 years old, and I just wanted to learn. I wanted to soak it all up. And I remember walking to this event, and it's all a bunch of grown-ups, and I don't belong there. Thankfully, a couple of people were nice to me, and they were like, "Come on, kid, like we'll show you around." And so I had a really great experience. And when I was talking to people, they were like, "Oh, you actually know how to do this stuff." And one person was like, "Can you speak at my event?" And I remember speaking at this event and just doing an atrocious job. I didn't have somebody like you helping me deliver my talk or anything like that. But I saw the value of getting in the same room with people, and that I never lost that. I leveled up from that one event that I attended. And it wasn't just from the speakers on the stage that helped. It was from the conversations that occurred at dinner and at the bar. And so I saw the power in it. Now, fast forward a couple of years, I'm beginning to build my own audience. And my audience was built, by the way, on the back of speaking. And I didn't speak because I wanted to speak. I've always been a reluctant public speaker. But people asked and I said yes, and I did it. And then when I would speak, people would say, "Well, do you have a course or a book?" No, I don't, but I guess you can get on an email list. So I began building an email list. And that little email list of me sharing what I was doing was the genesis of what later became Digital Marketer, and then the Traffic and Conversion Summit, and all of our different masterminds. And all I was doing, Steve, was sharing with people the stuff that I was working on and what I was figuring out. It was work in public before that was kind of a thing. And the whole reason that I did it was, one, it kept me accountable. Two, I learned from it. When I shared what I was doing, I learned by teaching others. But the other cool thing happened. I would say to folks, I'm thinking of starting this new company, but it's going to cost me some money. So if you want to look over my shoulder while I do it, pay me $500 and I'll add you to a separate email list, and I'll send you updates and you can see behind the scenes and everything that I'm doing. So I began using this media that was kind of my ideas, my learnings, my lessons as the seed funding mechanism for my other different businesses. And so for me, the teaching and the talking about of marketing was always a secondary byproduct. I always saw the other companies as the real business, and the teaching and talking about of marketing, the thing I'm probably best known for today, as kind of the little side thing that wasn't a real company. It wasn't until I partnered up with this guy who I know you know well, Perry Belcher, where he said, "Hey man, we should do an event." And I remember saying, "I don't want to do an event." Marketing events at the time were terrible, man. I don't know if you remember. There were these god-awful pitch fests. It'd be one speaker after another, delivering basically 11 and a half minutes of an introduction, 2 minutes of what was kind of seemed like maybe content, and then 45 minutes of a pitch.
Close, yeah.
And I was like, this is terrible. I don't want to do anything like that. And he's like, "But we got to do an event. We got to do an event. We'll make so much money if we do an event." And I said, "All right, I will do an event. But the goal of this event is we have one goal. We don't have a monetary goal. We don't have a profit goal or a revenue goal. Our goal is one. I want everybody leaving that event saying that was the best damn marketing event I've ever been to in my entire life. That's our only goal. And he said, deal. To his credit, he's like, deal. So we did this event, Traffic and Conversion Summit. The very first one was in Austin, Texas. I thought maybe 50 people would show up. We wound up getting 280 something crammed into this ballroom. A lot of the biggest names that you know were there, and it was just Perry and I just sharing what was working for us. We had a couple people come up and speak, but it was just us for 2.5 days. Well, something happened at lunch on the third day. Okay, so it's lunch on the third day. Man, we're wiped out. We're basically out of content, and I don't mean basically out of content. I mean we were out of content. And so what we decided was, hey, we got a half a day left and we're done with content. What if we go out to the audience and we say, hey, everybody, if you've got a cool idea, come up and share it. We're going to have what we call the Wicked Smart Party. So that was the first thing that happened, was we decided that the second half of the third day was going to be other people sharing. Then something else happened at lunch on day 3 that I don't talk about a lot. We got the bill. And I didn't realize how expensive it is to put on an event in a hotel for 300 of your closest friends. Mm-hmm. And I went, holy crap, dude, we're kind of screwed. We're out of content. I think we kind of solved for that one. But man, we got like an $80-something thousand bill here. And now I'm kind of regretting the fact that I said, I just want this one thing, everybody leaving saying what a great thing it was, because we don't have like just 80 grand to throw around. I mean, this was like in the earlier days. And Perry's like, we need to sell a mastermind. That's what we need to do. We need to sell a mastermind. I was like, done. Because I'm thinking to myself, this is like the only shot we got. And so that's exactly what we did. We came up the third day and we said, look, everybody, you've heard a lot from us. Now we want to hear from you, as though it was planned. It wasn't planned. And people came up one after another. And man, the people said that was the best event I've ever been to in my entire life. But the piece that they commented on was not our sessions. It was when everybody else came up and delivered. And that's when I realized that the power of the mastermind. It's when I realized that the collective wisdom of the people in the room is far greater than the collective wisdom of the people on the stage. And at the end, after everybody delivered all this amazing content, it was very easy for us to say, wasn't that great? Wouldn't you like to do it again? We're creating this group called War Room, and it's going to be just like this, people just like you sharing things like this along with us. If you like this, you should sign up. We had 18 people sign up at, I think, $18,000 a pop. And we covered our bill, and a new business and a new venture was formed. Perry and I got along with, then Roland came on, ran that group for 13 magical years. So that's the extended backstory.
War Room was and will always be in my memory the greatest mastermind on the planet. I spoke at War Room. In fact, we first met at Punta Mita, I think, when I actually spoke. You obviously couldn't get any speakers there, so for some daft reason you asked me to speak at the event. That was the first time we met, and then I joined, and then Henry joined, and absolutely loved War Room. And it was one of the things that taught me that there was more value in the room than the stage. And if you worked in that as the priority, you couldn't fail. I want to flip back to something else, because you and Perry and Roland are a beautiful example of this. And I want to be very careful how I put it, but you're not natural stage speakers. And I remember, I spent 25 years when I ran Bluefish, the concierge firm, making sure that nobody knew who I was, making sure that I was the guy that just hid in the room and I was the anti-brand. No one should know who I was. And so when stage life came along, I didn't want to work stage, but I knew the impact and the value of it. You, Perry, and Roland knew the value of being on stage and what it would do for your business. How did you get over those early jitters of actually walking onto that stage in front of all of those eyeballs and expectations?
The first time I spoke, I said yes before I had a chance to think about it, which was a good thing. But yeah, I never aspired to be on stage. But the first group that I spoke to was a small group, and to me, I felt like I was talking to my friends. It was an event I'd already been to. I'd gotten a lot from it, and so I saw it as an opportunity to give back. Now, it was a disaster, and that is not an exaggeration. I gave that first talk, and I will never forget thinking about midway through, this is not going well. This is not going well at all. Which, by the way, is not a great thing to be thinking in the middle of your talk, because it's not like I got better as a result of that internal monologue. I only got worse. I only pressed more and tried more and, did all these things. And I'll never forget when I was done off my talk, I was like, okay, so thank you. And I kind of like start to walk off stage and people people clap because they're nice. And I see this gentleman get up and walk directly towards me. He was an Australian fellow. And he said, hey, that was shit, right?
Oh, nice. Nice feedback.
But I said to him, I said, yeah, I did. And he said, can I give you some feedback? And I said, I think you already have. He's like, no, can I give you some more constructive feedback? And I said, yeah. He said, it's clear to me that you're trying to sound like other people. Why don't you just get up there next time and just talk? And I realized he was exactly right. And I remember, I remember not wanting to go to the bathroom after that, because I knew I'm going to go in the bathroom and people are going to be talking about me and they're going to be talking about what an awful session that was. But dude, I just had to pee. There was no getting around it. And so I kind of go into the bathroom and I go into one of the stalls because I don't want to be there at like the urinal where people could see me. And I hear some guys on, they're like, man, that last session was kind of rough, huh? The guy was like, yeah. And they're like, hey, did you see the game last night? And they immediately just moved on with their lives. And what I realized is, as bad as that was and as humiliating as that was, I just didn't matter that much. And if I would just get over my own ego and instead of going out there and saying from stage, what can I get from this? But instead ask the question, what do I have to deliver? Right? It's a privilege to be on this stage. What can I give to this audience? And if I make it all about them, it all of a sudden got easy. I mean, I'm still nervous when I go out because you want to do a good job. It matters. You should be a little bit nervous, but it was no longer an ego nerve. It was a drive and a desire to do well. And once that frame shifted for me, speaking became fun because it became an opportunity to give. It became an opportunity to share, it became an opportunity to get instant real-time feedback. There's nothing like throwing out an idea and just watching the eyes of a room just get really big. Like you thought, whoa, everybody got it, that hit. And then similarly, thinking you got an idea that's pretty good, you throw it out there and you watch everybody just kind of look at you like you're an idiot, right? It's like that feedback is so valuable. And so still to this day, I don't love speaking. I don't crave the stage. But it is, I think, one of the highest leveraged activities any entrepreneur can get involved in. And I think it's something that everyone should do. I really do.
Yeah. I'm interrupting this podcast for 35 seconds to give you more value. If you are an ambitious entrepreneur looking for the opportunity in everything you come across, don't just listen to this podcast. Imagine taking part in these conversations every week. Imagine having a new network of creative and disruptive entrepreneurs to support and push you into becoming the person you can be. With this high level and exclusive community, it exists. Head to simsdistillery.com to learn more. The thing that I noticed about you, which I was in awe of, and you command the attention of thousands of people at the traffic and conversion every year, and of course your events as well, is that I've never actually seen you give a speech. I've actually seen you have a conversation with the audience. And that's the difference, I believe, in a good speaker. Those people that go on there and just like, frame by frame, and they've got this statement rehearsed, they lose the connection with the audience. But you literally, as you've just highlighted there, you look at the eyeballs, you play with the reaction. You are you having a conversation on what's important today. You've always struck me as incredibly curious as to what's next. And I loved one of your statements, and there's so many nuggets that you spout every time you speak. When everything's new, nothing's new. You're constantly looking at what's working, that curiosity, has that always been with you?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of entrepreneurial ADHD. I get bored very quickly. I think I would likely be far wealthier if I had just focused on one or two things, but man, that's no fun at all. And so I love 0 to 1. I love solving puzzles. Richard, my business partner, co-founder, he says, he says, you don't just like seek out issues and challenges and problems. You like find them and then chase them down and tackle them to the ground. And he's right. Like that's That's what I love. That's what I enjoy. And so I don't necessarily get excited about trends for the sake of trends. Like I know a lot of people who do that. My business partner, Roland, he gets really like AI. He gets really excited about that. I'm always saying like, okay, that's fine. Until I see the immediate problem that it solves, I don't get that excited about it. But I do get really excited about new things and change when it's like, ooh, this can solve an old problem, or this can solve a new problem, or it's, I see this. I love solving problems. I love solving puzzles.
And the thing I like about the way you teach and you operate is you try to find out where it's a rinse and repeat. You try to find out, okay, this worked, but can it work for someone else? And you have many operations. We spoke about digital marketing. We spoke about traffic and conversion, Rise Nation with you, Roland, and Damon John and Richard Linden. We've got to give a shout out. Smart dudes. You always associate with very smart people. But I want to talk about your book, and I want to talk about scalable. There's a lot of people that talk about, oh, yeah, we're going to get you to this business. You're talking about, okay, why stop there? How can you actually raise it, continue it, and move it up? Talk to us about the whole premise and the ideology behind scalable.
Sure. I mean, so where scalable came from is back in 2016, my partners and I had not one, not two, but 3 different companies hit the Inc. 500 and 5,000 lists. From the outside looking in, anybody would have said, you're crushing it. And if somebody would have said, hey, how's it going? I would say, oh, amazing, crushing it, obviously. Here's the other side of that coin. I was basically never at home for family dinners. I mean, literally, I almost never made a family dinner. Dance recitals, soccer practices, forget about it. I was kind of there on the weekends, but I wasn't really there, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And in addition to all that, I wasn't actually making personally that much money. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs have experienced this. When your business gets bigger, when your business starts making more, you as the entrepreneur oftentimes start making less. What the hell with that? So here we are from the outside looking in. Everything seems like it's going great, but behind the scenes, I know for a fact it's a freaking dumpster fire. Now, fast forward. So we got all these companies on the Inc. 500, 5,000 list. One of those companies, profitable, systemized, was doing great, continued to do great, still doing great today. Another one of those companies, a few years later, basically had to be sold at break even to a competitor because it never could. The founder, our partner in that business, never could get out of his own way. Third company, absolute crash and burn. We had to lay off 180 people within 6 months of appearing on the Inc. 500, 5,000 list. This taught me more than anything else that growth is hard, scale is harder. And furthermore, growth is not the solution to problems of scale. Growth and scale are fundamentally different things. And ultimately for me, the breaking point, one night, I remember coming home, it was well after midnight, and I walked into my house and I turned the corner to go to my bedroom. And I remember rounding the corner and I could see under my door light coming out from under the door. And I remember thinking, that's not good. She should be asleep. This isn't going to be good. And I remember kind of slowly turning the handle of the door and opening it slowly. And sure enough, there's, my wife of, at the time, almost 20 years sitting up in bed, and it's clear that she'd been crying. And I'll never forget what she said. I remember verbatim the words she said. She said, look, you can keep doing what you're doing. I know who I married. I know I married an entrepreneur. You can keep doing what you're doing, but you can't pretend like you're doing it for us anymore. And that was when I was just undone. Because I said before, she was the reason I started my first business. I met this girl, wanted to buy her a ring. She was my original why. Then, we do get married. A couple years later, we get a kid. 2 years later, another kid. 4 kids later, I got all these little whys lined up every 2 years. They were the reason that I wanted to do all this stuff. They were the reason that I wanted to scale. But they were also the reason that I was miserable. And they were the reason they weren't the reason, I'm sorry. My desire to scale the business, but doing it the wrong way, was the reason that I was miserable and I was making them miserable. So I knew there just had to be a different way, and just throwing more work at it, trying to grow more, none of these things were working. And so that really was the genesis of Scalable. I've made a career out of teaching people how to grow. But I've also seen the downside to unfettered growth and growth without scale. And so the first half of my career has been about growth. The second half of my career is going to be about scale. and helping entrepreneurs not sacrifice their souls and their relationships and their health at the altar of scale.
It's defining or splitting those into the growth and the scale. That was my biggest lesson. And you're right, it's so important. You've made it a little bit easier. You've written a book. I want to, first of all, tell us, where can they get that book?
So the book is called Get Scalable. It's the operating system that your business needs to grow and scale without you. And this is the playbook that we use anytime we acquire a business, anytime we start a business. Once it gets up to about $500,000, $1 million in revenue, we roll out this playbook. And it's all the tools, everything that we got. You get it on Amazon, pay whatever a book costs. If you want it for free, you can go to getscalable.com/free. And you can literally, it's just pay whatever the shipping handling is. I think right now it's like $8.40. So we don't charge you for the book. We don't upcharge on shipping. It's just literally what it costs to ship it. So that's where they can get the book.
I'm going to put that in the link. And for any of my Speakeasy Sims Distillery members, I'm going to be sending that link out as well so they can find out about this book, because quite simply, they do need to realize that the classic lines, what gets you here will not get you there. This is the element you need to actually scale your business. You don't need to be doing this. You know, you're soul tracking conversion, you're out of war room, you're probably rolling around in your mansion full of whatever. And you don't need to be doing this. But there's something in you that I can't let it go. Now, I've seen you with your family, and I know that your why is right back up where the priority it should be. But you love to try new things. It's what keeps you that smile. And joking aside, what keeps your young spirit going around. What are we seeing out of you over the next few years?
Well, now I'm getting to play in other people's sandboxes. So it's so one, for me, this is a passion project. I mean, like you said, I've had enough exits. I could be done. Man, I'm 43 years old. What am I going to do? I suck at golf. What am I going to do? Like, seriously, this is the only thing I'm good at. It's the only thing I've ever done. I'm always going to be involved in companies, but I wanted to be on my own terms. I'm not going to be back where I was in 2016, man, where I never saw my family. I'm never, ever, ever going back there again. So it was a really fun experiment to say, how do we do this again right the first time? And I'm really proud of the fact that within a matter of months of that conversation, we had the businesses pretty much turned around. And I set a new goal of I'm going to take a 30-day vacation with my family every year, period, end of story. And that set about this journey. And we do it. Last year, we were in Germany and France and Austria. The year before that, it was, the UK. I mean, this year it's going to be on a whirlwind national parks extravaganza. So, I mean, I want to do it on my own terms. I want to do it while helping other entrepreneurs. But can I tell you a dirty little secret?
Please.
This entire business is just a front for private equity.
Right.
Everything that we're doing right now is an opportunity. So right now, we still own digitalmarketer.com. So we're still helping marketers and entrepreneurs grow their company. That's there. That's one of our portfolio companies. Love that business. We still own a share in Traffic and Conversion Summit. Love it. The Scalable company, what we're doing is we're helping entrepreneurs basically go from 7 to 8 figures, helping them get out of the day-to-day. Why? Because many of them want to exit their company. Well, I would love nothing more than to help them with that process. Maybe we get involved along the way. But I'm now at this stage in my life, I want to own less of more. So as opposed to being the person in charge, I want to fully realize all my entrepreneurial ADHD ambitions, and I want to own less of more. And so this is the tool, this is the framework, this is the platform that we get to do that with.
All right. So we've told people where they can get the book for free. Is there any way you want to tell them where they can follow you and your genius?
I'm not. So I still do need to do a much better job of getting myself out there. I'm still the reluctant personal brand. But if you on Twitter or X now, I guess, /Ryan Deiss, that is actually me. Every other social profile, I'm going to be completely transparent. That is my team posting on my behalf. But if you hit me up on, Twitter /X, that is actually me, and I would love to connect with people there. And that's where you get my real-time, unfiltered thoughts for better or worse. I'm also going to be launching a newsletter at accidentalmba.com. So I've decided I want to get back into writing, sharing all of my learnings and lessons as an accidental entrepreneur. And so accidentalmba.com will be another place they can go.
We're going to put those links in below. We'll be sharing this all over social because people need to grow their business and then they know how to scale it. Ryan, you're a delight to bump into, chat to. If anyone ever gets a chance, I don't want people crowding you, but if they ever get a chance to spend a couple of minutes with you at TNC Scalable, Rise Nation with Damon and Roland, any of those kind of events, if they ever do, they're blessed. So, Ryan, thank you very much for being you, and look forward to sharing some time with you in the future, pal.
Likewise, Steve. It's a pleasure.
Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. You know what to do. If you love it, share, subscribe, but more than anything, do something with it. And remember, life's too short to play it safe. So disrupt, connect, and grow. See you next time.